You are destined for great and unfortunate things.
The shadow of Rome is vast, and you will yet die under it to the roar of the crowd.
Why are you here?
Because I trusted in the honor of a Roman.
You have a woman.
Taken from me when I was captured.
I see things in men that they themselves have lost. I give it breath until it ignites. How many men would you kill?
All right. I keep forgetting I've got to chew the fat intro, so don't use it enough. Hello, welcome to another episode of Chew the Fat. That's where we talk in detail about a movie or TV series or episodes of a TV series at some considerable length. Always something we like. I'm not going to do a chew the fat on something that's rubbish, and talk about why we like it and so on. At least we usually like it. So I've got a couple of my regulars with me, my regular co-host on these, Blue Collar Loser, and also crawling out from under the large rock that he hides under, the Inside Man.
Hello.
Yeah, poor history, bro. I miss him.
Yeah.
History Bro decided that Spartacus was too gay for him. I think it might have been the slow line of revealing buttocks on episode 7. May have been too much.
The fair part.
Yeah. So, no, that's it's one of those shows. It's like it is a bit Marmite. People do kind of either like it or hate it.
Yeah.
But as entertainment, I still like it. Anyway, let's get on. So we're going to talk about 2 episodes tonight, episode 7 and episode 8. Both of these episodes, in my opinion, are pretty strong. 2 of the strongest of season 1. The first episode is called Great and Unfortunate Things. It's directed by Jesse Warren. Stephen DeKnight, of course, is part of the writing team, as always. The other 2 writers on this are Miranda Kwok and Brent Fletcher. And then the second episode is Mark of the Brotherhood. That is directed by Roa Woodson. The writers on it are Aaron Helbing, Todd Helbing. I assume they're probably brothers, and Stephen DeKnight. And that has just reminded me to mute my phone, because otherwise Alex is going to ring me, like he always does when I'm live streaming, and my phone will go off. I've just realised it's not muted, so let me just do that. There we are. Okay, good. So, yeah. So I'll go through the story briefly we'll do episode 7 first, and let me just get my my notes up. How is everyone? Someone's eating crisps.
It's not me.
No, definitely not you. Definitely not you. This is a good time for me to. So, Inside Man, please give us a 5-minute monologue about your week.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually been pretty good. Very good.
Sounds
All right.
like
Well, while you're munching your crisps, I'll do a brief sort of overview of episode 7. I'm not going to go too detailed. The main things that sort of there are several things that happen in episode 7, but the main things are with the various characters. Episode 7 is almost exclusively set in the Ludus, and got one big action scene at the end. Lots of delicious scenes with dialogues between various characters, and there's several key threads that happen. One is that we meet the wife of Navarro, who comes to meet him at Ludus, who clearly the money that he's been sending her hasn't been enough, and we find out that she had to sleep with another man in order to sustain their to sustain her income or whatever. So that's a big reveal. That's a big plot thread for Navarro. So she's pregnant. We also see his son. There's flashbacks at the beginning of episode 7 to when Spartacus was back in Thrace, when he was a Thracian, when he's with his wife Sarah. We flash back to the present, and we begin with the burning of her body. And then there's a conversation between Spartacus and Batiatus about, leaving his Thracian life behind and becoming what he's destined to be, this kind of thing. At the same time, the other things that kind of happen is we see the character. Oh, his name. Hang on, let me get the cast list up because I always forget names. The character who's got the who's like the gopher, who commits suicide, sadly.
Oh, God, right
Petrus, played by Ika Darville. Petrus, we kind of realizes all he's got are the pigeons, but now he's being preyed upon by one of the other gladiators.
This dude.
And I think he's called Aeneas. Is that right? And
yes.
And he's kind of unwillingly become his sort of plaything. So we can see that Petrus is mentally not coping with the fact that Barker appears to have just walked out and left him. Navarro's wife is called Aurelia. Thanks for that, Darth Plato. Dude, let me know if you want to come on and I'll drop you the link. The Spartacus thread, the main plot really with him is the local governor guy has offers Batiatus a huge sum of money if they can reenact a battle from history that involved his grandfather when his grandfather was called out to confront a Thracian invasion. And if they can recreate that in the arena with Spartacus playing the role of the grandfather, it'll mean much coin for Batiatus's purse. But Spartacus not too happy about this because it means that he's basically portraying somebody in the arena who was an enemy of his own people and who slaughtered his own men. So he's extremely unhappy about it. Ultimately, he agrees, and that's the big fight that happens in the end. And there's kind of a spiritual narrative between him and his wife talking to him in the afterlife that's kind of handled quite well. The other key things that happen in this episode are Ilithia is constantly scheming, trying to find out who Lucretia's lover is, and doesn't quite manage to put her finger on it. Even though Batiatus later says spit on finger and thrust in arse, which I thought was a good line. And then Ilithia is kind of upset to see Spartacus again still alive in the arena. She's got it in for him. Naevia is assigned to Crixus to help with his healing, which of course he's in love with Naevia, so that narrative has a bit more room. Lucretia is still demanding to be serviced by him, and we can clearly see he's not keen. But really, this whole episode culminates in two major dramatic events. One is that Petrus is found hanged, and we assume that he's killed himself because it's set up that was his intent. We don't know 100% that he did it, but I think it's 90% safe to assume that's what happened.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, of course, is the confrontation in the arena. Now, Spartacus costs Batiatus money because he knows this guy is the cause of Petrus's suicide, so he throws him off the cliff and kills him. That's a pretty cool scene. And then this is where they strike a deal, confronting each other in Batiatus's office, where he says, "Well, now you've got to fight you've got to fight this recreation." Spartacus agrees, but Batiatus says, if you do this, you leave your Thracian behind. You become Spartacus of the arena and forget about your past. And that's kind of all set up there. Quite some nice tension between him and Crixus as well. There's a bit more with Asher in this episode, and our man Doctore is kind of, if I find out that there is more to this story, you and I will have words.
Yep.
He says to Asher, stories in there's a great line where he says, stories in conflict make me feel uneasy, or something like that, because he's getting differing accounts of Barker's leaving, so he knows something is up.
Yeah, because he knows that Asher will lie to him, but she won't. He knows she's being honest.
Yeah,
That story's not matching with her story.
no, he knows Asher's a proper schemer. I can't wait to see the House of Asher, because I really like that actor, Nick E. Tarabay, who plays Asher. He really has fun with that role. And I mean, I don't know who else is in the cast of House of Asher, and I don't know where it's set in the timeline of things.
The best line right there, Lance.
Yeah, you kiss my cheek, only to finger my eye. That's the one. Definitely the best line of the episode, for sure. Where's the best line of the next episode? As Inside Man says, was I'll take the one with the horse cock, I think. Yeah, and there's some nice stuff here as well, with Elithia doing her usual stirring, like they chant the name of Spartacus, but I thought we were here to honor your grandfather, and then Atiatus has to do a bit of soothing of egos, and she's always stirring this woman. You really, really hate her, and I think that's good, because it builds nicely to
like you see, Lance, it's almost like religious, where he goes out there, you know what, then he's like 6-on-1. He's like, well, you say I'm destined by the gods, why not? He goes out there, he just puts his arms out like this, just waiting, and like, it's cheesy, but yet the spear just nicks his cheek like that. It's like, oh, shit.
I quite like that. I quite like that scene.
Yeah, they're right there now. He's like, all right, now I'm pissed. I'm like, oh shit.
I liked when they cut to the guests in the arena, and I'm always looking to see what they've done with the guests, and there's usually somebody flashing their upper region, but there was a couple of different things they did. Like, they had the guy who's missing an eye, who kind of like, he looked like a sort of, like he had his own gang, and he could lead people in the arena and get them to stand up. And then there was another guy, I don't know if you noticed, who was an amputee. He had
I wanted to capture. I was just rushing, but I seen the amputee too.
And they had a real guy there for that. So I mean, that's basically what happens. We have this great fight initially. See, I really liked this fight. I thought this fight was better than the one with Theocles, because you felt like Spartacus might lose, and so it had more suspense for me. Plus, the deaths were spear through the mouth, pulls the neck out.
That right there.
Yeah.
Well, plus cool, because Batiatus, Spartacus is his meal ticket. He's getting nervous, and Lucretia too. They're all getting scared. Like, is he actually going to lose? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But then he sees him winning. He's like, oh yeah, he's getting hungry and anxious. Like, yeah. But that was a powerful scene too, because the last Thracian is alive, and Spartacus looks down. He sees himself.
Yeah. That was that. I quite liked that. And the funny thing is because the last time I watched this was probably about 2 years ago, and I couldn't remember if he killed this final guy, and I was thinking, oh, he must have saved this guy, because that feels like that's what Spartacus would have done. And but
they're all happy now.
No, he really does become. Well,
that's what I took it as. It's like he's got it. That's him killing his old life in that one swing.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very symbolic.
Yep, and then we'll finally, for the first time in this show, now he calls himself Spartacus, and the crowd's cheering Spartacus. So yeah, he has embraced becoming Spartacus. He's no longer the Thracian.
Yeah.
The whole crowd's Spartacus.
Nice. So that's the story of episode 8. Let's get into a couple of different sections like we do normally. So let's just make sure I don't put up the wrong video this time. Here we go.
Gladiator does not fear death.
Gladiator's virtues extend beyond the arena. As love.
Well, there's very little historical referencing to speak of in this episode. It's all very character focused, with people that we already know.
I think you've actually pointed out something. Both of you have pointed something out that I think would constitute historical accuracy, and that's the kind of physical condition of the crowd, of some of the extras that they used, as you say.
Yeah.
One eye, amputees. This is pretty indicative of the population of Italia at that time.
Mhm.
Former soldiers, soldiers that had retired or acquired their manumission, maybe. Because it was such a violent place, somebody who's had their eye put out in a tavern or a street fight, or somebody who's had a limb taken off by somebody in a fight. So because of the violent nature of the society at that time, I'd suggest that that's probably a relatively accurate depiction of what a crowd would be.
It was also affordable entertainment, wasn't it? Because I don't know what the price of getting into the arena.
It was zero, nothing. It was all free.
Oh, was it free?
It was
Okay.
free, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So so there we are. So the price of getting in was free, but I imagine, but of course, all kinds of wages and things are made. Plus, you've got the hot dog seller. So
yeah. Yeah, it's weird because looking back at some of these periods, first century AD, first century BC, first century AD, and when they talk about the games, particularly the funeral games, which is something that History Bro was talking about a few weeks back.
Mm.
You used to have. They used to sell figures of gladiators the same way we would buy figures of superheroes. So you'd have little carved figures.
Yeah.
Some of them carved, some of them in clay, of gladiators, and there was a lot of prize giving, let alone the bets, the gambling, and everything. But there were food vendors around the venues, exactly how we know food vendors are around venues today. People selling merchandise, and a relatively decent carnival atmosphere outside. There was quite an interesting depiction of that carnival atmosphere outside the Colosseum in Gladiator.
I remember.
Yeah, and by all accounts, from the accounts that have been left to us, the few accounts that we actually do have of the games, particularly from people like Martial and Juvenal, that's what it was like. Everybody went to the games, everybody went to the Circus Maximus because it was free.
I wondered if one historical thing I did wonder about, and of course this is when History Bro would be very helpful in this regard, is whether the when they're recreating that battle, I wondered if that was a real historical battle, and I wondered if that great grandfather of that character was a real Roman.
I wonder.
General, yeah, and I what I should have done? I should have written down the name, because they did say it.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, which I can't recall.
And then look it up. I suspect that bit might be, if there's any nuggets of history, that will probably be it in this. In this episode, but story-wise, in terms of the narrative of Spartacus, all of the characters get something in this episode. Navarro's story moves forward. Petrus's story sadly comes to an end. There's more between Spartacus and Crixus. There's more between Spartacus and Doctore. This guy, and I'll talk about him when we get into the actors, because he's got quite an interesting career. Racho Vislev. His narrative comes to an end, and he's been there since the beginning. Plus, we have the introduction of a new character in this episode, who is Navarro's wife and his son, because we've heard about them but never seen them. And then also we're going to get a new character in the next episode as well, who's going to give Ilithia a run for her money in terms of being the shitty girl. All the stories kind of move forward, and we find out more, and that's what I really like about the narrative of this show. I think story it's great. Does anybody want to mention anything else about the history? I thought Spartacus's armor was pretty cool. I guess that's more of a production design thing, but it felt kind of legit.
Yeah.
In that fight,
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, I don't know. Certainly with the any kind of opposition that it would face, I don't know how accurate any Thracian armor would be, or a Thracian wardrobe would be, but yeah, I thought his stuff looked pretty good. It's funny, just quickly mentioning back to that battle. I think you're right. I think it's quite likely that the depiction, or the thing that the event they're trying to depict, was probably a real event. I would suggest so. I suppose if you look back to the movie Gladiator, where they wrongly called it the Battle of Carthage, it was actually the Battle of Zama. The Battle of Zama. It wasn't the Battle of Carthage, and you certainly didn't have sort of bare-breasted Amazonian warriors on in chariots and golden armor. That was complete nonsense. But I reckon that's probably, I think you're right. I reckon that was probably a real conflict, a real battle.
Well, let's check in with Darth Plato and see if he knows, because he's here.
Oh, good lad.
What's going on?
Hello.
Hi, man. How you going?
So what are you talking about, Zama?
So we're talking in episode 7 of the show. I don't know when you watched it last, but they recreate a battle against a Thracian Roman invasion, which Spartacus is forced to play the part of the Roman general who's supposed to be the grandfather of the kind of the visiting statesman guy from Capua. So who pays Batiatus a lot of money to recreate this for them. We're wondering if that is a real battle. I think the name of the battle, certainly the name of the Roman general, is mentioned.
You mean Rufus?
That sounds familiar. Can we get? Have you got the episode handy, Blue? Maybe we can get the.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you do realize my grandfather won this battle.
Yeah, I remember. I remember the scene when it happened because I did some of my early graduate work on the Second Punic War and the Hannibal and all that stuff. So
right,
there was a guy named Rufus that was part of the Battle of Cannae. He wasn't at Zama though.
No. We're not talking about Zama. Zama's the battle that's mentioned in the film Gladiator, but they call it the Carthage battle. No, we're talking about this episode, this battle here that they recreate here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what battle that's supposed to be. Where he's fighting the Thracians.
Yeah, they mention a particular Roman general or hero, and they do mention him by name. And I'm just wondering if he's a real person.
Well, the only Rufus I'm aware of was at the Battle of Cannae. That was 200 years earlier. So if there was a battle during the 1st century BC, I'm not familiar with it. Right. I will say though that the angle is Spartacus not wanting to fight Thracians.
Yeah,
Thracian. Now that is a real thing in war. When you have a multi-ethnic army, where you have a component of your army that's one race, and the other side is, and they're the same people, they tend not to like that.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a more modern example. So during the First World War, the Austrian army sent Slavs to fight on the Carpathian front against Russians, and a depression set in among the troops because they were fighting Russians. They were fighting Slavs. So they transferred them to the Italian front, where they apparently had no trouble shooting Italians.
Right. No, I bet the Italians love that. But
that is a real thing, though.
Yeah, no, I believe you. Do we have anything else to say about the history of this episode? Probably not. That's probably.
I'm trying to find what they called it, Lance. Here it's saying that the battle is recreating the Thracian invading Macedonia. I'm trying to find the end of the battle now.
Okay, let me have a quick.
Macedonia is north of Greece.
Yeah. Invasion of.
I'm trying to skim through the episode on Plex.
Oh. Thracians invaded Macedonia on multiple occasions, including 429 BC and 207 BC.
Right. Okay.
This is the 70 BC. So.
Yeah.
So
you're looking at considerably, considerable
this is
amount
way
of years before that. Yeah.
This is way before that. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
So Spartacus is playing the character called Marcus Minucius Rufus. That's the Roman general.
Good to see you, James. Good to see you, DJ. Rock. Okay. I don't know if that's how you meant for that to sound, but I did my best.
That was the guy from the Battle of Canaan.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll move on. We're going to talk about the characters and cast now.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten.
All right. So, as I said, there's a couple of there's a couple of new characters that we see for the first time in this particular episode. Overall, I was pretty happy with the I'll just say as a general comment, I was pretty happy with the standard of the acting. There are two actors who end their journey here who've pretty much been with us since episode 1. So I thought we ought to talk about them a little bit. So one of them, of course, is Ratio Vasilev, who is actually a Bulgarian stuntman. And he plays our man who gets thrown over the cliff by Spartacus in revenge for Petros's death. He's got 117 credits on IMDb, and the latest one of those is for a show that looks pretty interesting, I have to say. It's called Kalkai 2898 AD. I've got to see this film. Hang on. I've got to put this trailer back, guys, because I don't think anyone will have seen this trailer. This is looks like a Bollywood sci-fi movie. You don't get many of them. And let me see if I can share this. Yeah, let's share sound here. So this is the latest thing. He's the stunt coordinator on this.
Right.
All right. Let's have a quick look. I might get. Problem is, I'm probably going to get copyright. But let's have a quick look.
ఈ వరల్డ్ లో చివరి నగరం కాశీ అయినా నీళ్లుంటాయంట.
భూమిని మొత్తం పీల్చేస్తే అన్ని అక్కడే ఉంటాయి. ఈ లోకంలో ఉన్నది కాంప్లెక్స్ ఒకటే, దేవుడు ఒక్కడే సుప్రీం యాస్కిన్.
నీలాంటోడు ఎంత మందిని రక్షించొచ్చో తెలుసా?
నేను రక్షించాల్సిందే ఒక్కడిని. 6000 సంవత్సరాల క్రితం కనిపించింది. ఇప్పుడు మళ్ళీ ఆ పవర్ వచ్చిందంటే ఇక వెలుగు వచ్చే సమయం అయింది.
ప్రాణంలో ఇంకో ప్రాణం.
నువ్విప్పుడు కనపోయేది మామూలు ప్రాణం కాదమ్మా, సృష్టిని నేను కాపాడుతా.
దీన్ని ఎలాగైనా ఆపి తెరాలి. పొద్దున్నే ఫైట్ అండి బుచ్చి. ఎంత మంచి కళ ఉన్నాను తెలుసా? మనం కాంప్లెక్స్ లో ఉన్నామంట.
1 మిలియన్ యూనిట్స్ ఉన్నాయని దగ్గర ఏమీ లేవు.
అలాంటి ఎంత మందికి నువ్వు అక్కడ హీరో తెలుసా? నాతో రా.
యూనిట్స్ ఎక్కువ ఇస్తారా?
అబద్ధం. నీకు జస్ట్ నువ్వంటేనే ఇష్టం భైరవా.
ప్రపంచంలో ఒకటే ఒక సైడ్.
I don't know, guys.
Well, that looks mental.
Yeah, that looks like a cross between Fifth Element and Valerian.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you don't expect that kind of film to come out of Bollywood. Let's be honest. I'll be quite curious to see it. Obviously, I'd need to see it with subtitles, but yeah, it looks alright. It's got some interesting design elements. Anyway, that's the latest production that our man who got thrown over the cliff is working on. Ratio Vasilev, and he's working all the time. He was a stunt performer on John Wick 4.
Nice.
He was a stunt coordinator on RRR, which of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, now that broke. That's why he's been given that job on that film, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, you can see that.
And he worked on Angel Has Fallen, a whole load
Terrible
of other.
film.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Oh, dreadful.
He did 7 episodes of Game of Thrones. He did London Has Fallen. The first 20 minutes of that are good, and then the rest of it's absolute pants.
Yeah.
Expendables 3. I'm just shouting out the ones I've heard of. 21 episodes of Spartacus. So I think he did, even though his character died, he stayed in the show and carried on doing stunts.
Nice.
So I guess he was probably taken on primarily as a stunt guy, but they did say that they deliberately went to that part of Europe to get Germanic looking cast members to represent, the mix that you would have. Most important,
technically, he should have been a Thracian.
Yeah, I mean, well, indeed. Most importantly, though, he did Blue Collar Loser's favorite animal film, Mega Snake. So
Hey, why not?
Don't forget to check out Mega Snake if you haven't seen it. Recommended by Blue Collar Loser.
Yeah, so that scene right here, Lance, they never see the actual battle. They just tell the details of it.
Rome's victory over the Magi. So do we know any victory over
the mighty
tribe who dared invade Macedonia?
That's he said first he wants Crixus, but he's injured, so he's like, well, I'll give you Spartacus for an extra 40%. That's it. They never say what the actual battle is.
Yeah. I think he does say the name of his relative, though, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, his grandfather was like his last name is Rufus. Like Marcus.
You mentioned that earlier. That's the same. That name is a guy that was at Cannae.
Right.
Yeah.
Lucius, but it's possible that they have the repeating names because Roman did reuse names.
Marcus.
Okay, so this. Yeah. Oh, okay. He's changed the name slightly, but the most well-known one, I assume this is the one you're talking about, is Lucius Virginius Rufus, AD 15 to 97, or is that?
No, that's much later, isn't it?
Oh, is that much later? Oh, yeah, we're on BC, aren't we?
Yeah.
Before Steven Spielberg. I keep forgetting. Right, okay. Oh, well. It's probably just a made-up name then, but I thought that might be tied into some bit of history somewhere that we could have.
Yeah, I thought they may have just added that as a little kind of historic touch, just a nugget for us.
Yeah. Oh, well. Anyway. But I like this guy. I mean, even though he's obviously primarily a stunt guy, not an actor, he knows what he's doing with the stuff that they've given him. Works really well in the role. What did we think of? And I'll let everyone else chip in now. The actress who played Navarro's wife. This is the first time we've met her.
I thought she came across as being very quite innocent,
She's got a real fragile kind of vibe.
Yeah, you're right. And somebody for whom it would be easy to take advantage of, and obviously somebody has. But I actually thought she played that quite well. As fewer scenes as she had, or as few lines of dialogue that she had, I thought she played that quite well. I did actually quite like that scene, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think she's played by, because her character name's Aurelia, and she's played by Brooke Williams, who you may have also seen in the film Slow West. She was in the TV series of 12 Monkeys. She's also been in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I know is very popular, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
She did the Shannara Chronicles. I did watch that. I on the whole, I thought it was a poor man's Lord of the Rings.
That had Manu Bennett as well, though. Was in that?
It did, and it also had the actress who plays. So there's a different actress in season 2 of this who plays Navia, and it has that actress is also in that show. So I mean, she's still a jobbing actress. Just done 7 episodes of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury, voiceover animation. So yeah, I quite like her. I think she's very well cast. Kind of, yeah, because you need someone who feels kind of petite and needs protecting.
Yeah,
Don't you, in that
yeah,
role?
very, very vulnerable. She played that very, very well, and I thought she had a really nice voice. I
Yeah.
think she had a really nice voice. The delivery was very good.
We should talk about the other character that we lose in this episode. Possibly one of the more handsome men of the show, I would think, and that's Urquhart Darville, who plays Petrus. I thought he did quite a lot with that role because he hasn't. If you look back throughout the show, he's got. We're on episode 7, and he's got what in those 7 episodes? Maybe 10, 11 lines, 12 tops.
Yeah,
something like that.
So his storyline with Barker's quite effective. We talked about it last week, how it didn't seem forced or like a box tick or anything like that. 25 acting credits, a big role on Jessica Jones, 35 episodes. So obviously that's kept him busy for 5 years. 10 episodes of Tell Me a Story. Not familiar with that show. Strangers, The Defenders, Empire, 4 episodes of Empire. Probably saw him in that. And Mr. Pip, which I'm not familiar with. Yeah, I like him. Good actor. Yeah, you feel for him as well in this episode.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I didn't want him to die. Actually, I thought something else was going to happen, but yeah, I guess it was he is now united with Barker in Elysium. So
but he also played that fragility quite well as well. I thought,
Yeah, really good performance from the actor.
Well,
Inside Man. I pulled up the scene with him and his wife. It's just like it's small dialogue, but she was like, why didn't you fight him off? Well, I tried, but the guy's pretty big, and where were you the entire time? He's like, well, I'm making money for you and our son, but the money's not enough.
Isn't there? I do wonder if there's a bit of a script conflict here, because later Asher says, and I think it's in episode 8, that he compliments Navarro on the fact that he's been making a lot of coin. And does he want to pass it on to his wife as usual? And he takes a whore for the first time.
Just wonder.
To keep us fed and sheltered.
Yeah.
Take us offered assistance.
Like Inside Man said, she doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe she's misspending, or maybe just his version of what's good enough coin is different than her version for raising a kid in those days.
Well,
I was gonna suggest that she may not be telling him the truth.
Yeah, I mean, if Leroy was here, he definitely would say don't trust her. I know that. Yeah, and it's Titus. Now, have we met Titus?
No, he's just a character for that's apparently involved with Aurelia. He's Navarro's friend.
Yeah,
we haven't met him in any previous, because I was racking my brains. Is he one of the kind of counselor types that turned up at the orgy or whatever? But I can't remember a Titus. So I'm assuming it's just somebody in their life that.
Yeah, it sounds like he's taking advantage of the situation. That's what it sounds like.
Basically, yeah. Well. Yeah, there you are.
And she's he's explaining it to him in this way so that he doesn't leave the Ludus and leave and get out of that money situation.
Yeah.
She calls a guy an acquaintance. Oh, a friend, and he was very friendly until he just forced himself onto me, and he's like, "But why didn't you fight him back?" And I tried.
Now it's a secret, so don't tell anyone. But that's one of Blue Collar Loser's young acting roles there on the left.
Look at that kid.
You can see the hair is a bit similar. That kid.
You feel bad too, because now she's like, "I'm with child." He's like, "With child, what ain't mine?"
I mean, that kid's probably 5, and this was shot in 2010, so they'd be 19 now.
19.
Yeah. Let's say that they're 5 or 6. So
by the way, you notice the head covering there? That when you look at art from that time period that depicts people, they kind of did wear a head thing like that.
Oh yeah. Well, stops you from getting burnt in the sun, I'd imagine, which would be a big problem in Italy during the summertime.
But it's good that they give the little boy matching his Goldilocks hair.
Yeah, I kind of liked that. definitely Navarro's son as opposed to the one that's on the way, sort of thing. Yeah, it's good that they set her up with this conflict because she's going to play a major role in time to come. Would anyone else like to pass comment on any of the other cast members or indeed the characters?
Yeah, I was really disappointed to see Alithia come back, to be honest with you. The girl can't act. She it's not just her character. She can't act. She absolutely stinks. She plays that part like a cross between a Valley girl and the silly little sister that's in Pride and Prejudice. It's a ridiculous performance. Absolutely, utterly ludicrous performance.
I
She
have
can't
to disagree with you a little bit.
she stinks.
I feel she suits the role. But have we seen her in anything else? Let's have a look. So 24 acting credits, 40 episodes of Neighbours Inside Man. How can you say she can't act? Come on.
Jesus H. Christ. I rest my case.
Yeah, 21. I mean, Spartacus is her main big job, and then there's various little bits and pieces in between, and a couple of other things. I don't think I've seen any of the other things that she's been in, to be fair.
And nor will I.
So I was Inside Man. I was just about to say to you, look, there's clearly like a redemption trilogy here. So you should obviously watch all of these and report to us on the Nielsen ratings. let us know if her acting is consistent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, do you want to praise anyone?
Again, I still like the whole thing with Crixus. There's I really like it. It's sort of impressing me more and more. Spartacus was Andy Whitfield was good in this episode. But there were
he got to play a bit more than the usual one note.
Yeah.
He did get to do a bit more. They gave him a bit more to do, which was good.
And this episode does move on at a bit of a lick, actually. It's things are actually starting to happen, and it feels like it's taken ages. Those first 4 episodes I just felt had really dragged out a little bit too much, and now we're on the next 4 episodes, which seem to be moving on at a decent pace. We're getting somewhere, and we're getting somewhere pretty quickly now.
I did like Dottore. He's like he knew Spartacus, what he was up to. He goes,
I forgot to mention he kind of has words with him about the fact that he poisoned him and all that shit, and he knew he spotted his scheme, and that's all. Really
he told him, he's like, the only reason I'll let you live for it's because you're a victory, but you try it again, you're not gonna you have to kill me next time you try that shit. Because he's like like wine hasn't crossed my lips in like decades, and one glass of wine wouldn't knock me out.
Yeah,
he knew it.
Yeah, no, interesting. I seek information.
Yeah.
To be fair, alcohol was a lot stronger in those days.
I really liked this scene.
Yeah.
Two fantastic actors like underplaying the scene to the limit. Really, really, really well done. Again, I mean the actor that plays Dottore and Nikki Tarabay are probably 2 of my favorite actors in this show. Peter Mensah, who plays Dottore. I mean, they're just so good.
Well, because he first figures it out because of the pigeons. He's like, so what do I do with those birds? What do you mean? And he's like, well, when he was leaving, he was saying about the birds, and he goes, and he started noticing right there, stories weren't matching up. Wait a second. He just up and he first off, maybe he up and left, okay, but then he mentions the birds, and like the more he's hearing talking to these characters, like something. Asher's up to some shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, also if people are like, why haven't we seen more of Peter Mensah? You can catch him playing a major role in the TV series of Sleepy Hollow. He also did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He did 19 episodes of Midnight Texas, which is not a show I'm familiar with, but has had pretty good reviews. So just worth mentioning there. And of course, Nikki Tarabay's got the House of Asher coming out shortly. So while Inside Man is still eating his microphone, good to see Lord Toxic in the chat incidentally. I think he meant to say I'm Sparta gay on that.
Right.
Does anyone want to comment on any of the actors or characters further this episode? I think we've probably covered everybody.
Yeah.
Of course, John Hannah and Lucy Lawless are. One of the things I really like about the two of them is they do kind of have this great having each other's back relationship, and they almost get off on that. And it's funny. I remember one of the times when we were at the Cannes Film Festival. This was with my ex-partner, and we were working this room together, for networking and whatnot. And actually, no, it was at this film screening. It was a couple of years earlier, so it must have been around the time we just watched Spartacus for the first time, because we saw it very late. And I remember saying to her, I felt like we were Batiatus and Lucretia in the room there. We were pretty good together, and we were a good team when we did that sort of thing. So kind of funny thinking back to that now. Anyway,
she does talk to him about, like, well, why didn't you tell me? Why'd you go through all this trouble for to bring his wife, just have her killed? And he's like, why didn't you tell me? He's like, why do I want to stain your hands? And she's like, well, aren't my hands stained by holding your hands?
Yeah, that's a good line. That's a good line.
Well, like you said, because he feels he's doing messed up stuff, but he's trying to, like save her from tainting herself. But it's like, it's your wife is just as bad as you are.
Yeah, I'll mold Spartacus into a gladiator.
Yes.
Well, there isn't much sex to speak of in this episode.
There's none.
No, but there was quite a bit of violence.
Others are said to be ravenous beasts. Make him do it again.
So, yeah, I mean, the fight doesn't hold back. Again, it is in that 300 style. So it's very comic book, but yeah, and it's a pretty good fight scene. Inside Man, what did you think of the fight scene and the level of violence in it?
Oh, terrific. I mean, give me more. Yeah, it's if there's one thing you absolutely cannot knock in any of these episodes is the fight sequences. They might be exaggerated, they may well be, comic book, which is obvious because that's what the source material was. But I love it. I love comic book violence. It's not real, but there is an element of reality to it. Yeah, really like it. Great stunt work, great choreography.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and
I mean, maybe the six guys kind of holding back a little bit at the beginning, fighting him in that kind of one at a time Steven Seagal style, felt a little bit unrealistic. But I think maybe there was mixed emotions going on with them because they were his countrymen, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or rather, they were playing his countrymen, weren't they? They weren't.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they weren't actually his countrymen. They were, as they say, they were thieves, rapists, and murderers.
Right.
So we're going to dress them up as Thracians.
You know what that scene looked like? It looked like a criminal execution scene because they used to do that in arenas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I found it hard to believe they would do that for a Primus, though.
Yeah, it was precisely that. It was an execution.
Yeah, but really well done. Good sort of climactic ending. And this, I suppose, what's important about this episode, bearing in mind it's episode 7, is this is the episode where he actually does become Spartacus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're literally at the halfway point, at precisely the halfway point.
Yeah, it's 13 episodes, so just over, I suppose.
Yeah, no, we're in the middle episode, aren't we? This is the middle episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 14 episodes?
No, there's 13. So Inside Man's dividing it by a different means to us.
No. It's the center episode.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
the center episode because there are 6 episodes either side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's fair. No, you're right.
Math.
So it's the center of the story, and that's where he becomes Spartacus. I like the way the corpses are scattered around neatly. Yeah. Anybody else want to say anything about the violence?
No, said it was just I love like this, like those the over the top blood splatters are always awesome. It's obviously CG, just it's so funny. Just it's how you see it, they always burst.
Yeah, no, they are good. Well, we'll move on to this and then we'll jump.
They cheer for blood, and they shall have it.
My favorite line of dialogue, I already mentioned it, was Batiatus. I know you've got it there somewhere. You kiss my cheek, I need to finger my ass. Yeah. So, to which Spartacus's comeback was, well, can't I do both? Yeah, that was really. I just love it when John Hannah says these lines. He has such fun with them. But my favorite scene, although I did love the fight, was the scene between Doctor and Asher, where Doctor is now he's gone into Inspector Clouseau mode. He knows something's up, and he's going to try and find out what is the truth of the matter. And it's just a really good scene because it's they're kind of circling around each other a bit. I really like it. Good acting. Always like to see good acting. Darth, did you have a favorite line or favorite scene in this episode?
Yeah, my favorite scene is exactly what you're talking about, the confrontation between Animaeus, Doctore, and Asher. I love that scene.
And also the fingering of the arse, also your favorite line.
I deny that.
Blue collar, favorite line, favorite scene?
My favorite scene between these two, but only for the different reasons of like, why'd you care? Why'd you do this for? Because he killed that kid, basically hung himself because of him. He goes, well, he wasn't important. He goes, no, he was a man. He had a life. And so it's like that where he's like, that's why I pushed this guy off the cliff for, because his memory's like, well, because of what you did, I paid good money for this gladiator. Now I'm gonna take away all your winnings to pay back the debt you owe me. But it's like
that is good. I mean, that scene is also, again, two powerhouse actors really showing their stuff. A very good scene.
Yeah, and it even like, because that was even with Crixus, he says to him, I like this scene as well, but like right there, he's like, you dishonor me by what you did. And he's, what do you mean? He's like, because he's like, once you swore that oath, he's like, Crixus says this guy was your brother. Spartacus like, he was my brother. He goes, no, all gladiators are your brother. And he goes, he's like, you definitely dishonor me by what you just did. And he goes, right there, he was too weak for this place. But he's like, no, he's like, he mattered. And he's, yeah, but you brought shame upon me. And he said, even Crixus is like, well, in the arena, I should have killed you. Now I regret not killing you. It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah, it's good. One of the things that's good about this show is that they keep the tension between Crixus and Spartacus right up until episode 13. And then one is dependent on the other for things to move forward at that point. We'll talk more about that when we get there. But Inside Man.
I'm actually going to go with the shallowest of answers and say it was the fight.
No,
I was really watching it. I was watching it so carefully, and watching the choreography of it, and just in my head trying to break things down how they would have done it. I'm finding it more and more fascinating watching some of these fights.
Yeah, the effects work and the combination of sort of CG and makeup, extremely well done. Still holds up well. I mean, yeah, you can, it's a CG background plate shot for the arena. Sure, it's CG blood splatters, but
like
it's all very well put together and it still hangs well. And it because it's that aesthetic, that comic book aesthetic.
Yeah,
I don't think it matters that we know what the elements are, as long as it works in the aesthetic of this show, and it does.
Yeah.
That's what I like that shot kept with the spear. You can tell right there it's obviously it's a CG spear going into his knee, and the cut right there. But it's just such a cool shot right there.
Yeah, I felt the pain on that one. Yeah, no, good stuff. So overall score for episode 7, and in the chat, if you want to contribute, please put a number between 1 and 10 for episode 7 of.
I'd say this is a pretty solid episode, actually. As I say, that it's starting to move on at quite a pace now, and I think we, after the first 4 episodes, I think we've deserved the pace on which it's moving now, So, I mean, I'd give this a 7.
Yeah, I'll give this. I actually give this episode an 8. This episode scores 8.2 on IMDb. What about you, Darth?
I give it an 8.
Blue.
Yeah, I'll go with an 8. Solid episode, and like Inside Man said, the pacing is very good in this episode.
Well, that's 31 out of 40, so that's a pretty respectable score. Let's move on to episode 8 then. And episode 8, Mark of the Brotherhood, also known as Horse of the Brotherhood, is a fun episode. Directors Rowan Woods, as I mentioned before, Aaron and Todd Helbing, interesting surname, are the two main writers on this, of course, with Stephen S. and I overseeing. Interesting episode, a bit of a change of pace, lots of new dynamics. One of the things that's great about it is basically, I mean, so we open with a montage. Spartacus continues his reign as the champion of Capua at Salonius's expense. Like Batiatus makes a great comment. I fear that Salonius hasn't got anything left to offer us, which is really funny. And then we've got some stills for I know you haven't done any stills for this one, Blue, but there are a few. Let's pop up one of these. There are a few on IMDb. His Spartacus on display for the gaggle of ladies. So during this montage, we see that Ilithia's kind of trying to put him down, saying that she's getting bored by seeing the same champion beat people easily. And so in order to regain favor, divert her attentions, Batiatus suggests that she accompanies them to the market for the purchase of new stock. And we go to the market, and Salonius and others are bidding on several new slaves, and ultimately Batiatus just goes 100 denarii and gets the whole lot. And in them are 3 new characters. Annoyingly, I don't think there are stills of those particular characters. It's all the ladies. But one of the characters, there are 3 ghouls, 2 brothers who are twins. And then there's also, let me get the cast list up here. And then there's also a really tall ghoulish warrior who I believe is the character name is Servax, who comes with a large weapon already. So no need for a sword.
Not cervix then.
Pretty close.
Yeah. And his surname is Buster.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, cervix Buster.
So I think Agron and Duro are the 2 brothers. Segavax. So not far off. Who's played by actor Mike Edward, who's incredibly tall. Who actually in his other job at the minute is he runs this kind of circus theatre company, incidentally.
Oh, right.
So Daniel, I don't know how to pronounce this surname, Fergurel. He plays one of the new brothers who's in the show.
It's Foyer Regal. Foyer is like fire.
Thank you very much.
Like Foyer, like fireman, something like that.
Excellent. There are pictures of him here, but these are in the later seasons. There he is in the middle, because we don't want to get into too many spoilers, but maybe both of the brothers don't make it later. But he's a good actor. Straight away, he gets your attention. Those 2 brothers get your attention immediately in the show. Segavax gets your attention for maybe other reasons. But and then I would say the first 2/3 of this show are sort of all about political maneuvering. Batiatus is sort of publicly embarrassing Salonius. It's kind of his chance to thrive. There are veiled threats back and forth between them about who might have murdered, caused the murder of the cousin and all that kind of thing. And then later at the house of Batiatus, after Ilithia has seen the various gladiators and had them disrobed, cue bum shots, a group of new upwardly mobile women of Roman society arrive, and we're introduced to a whole load of other characters, and they're led by one particular woman, particular character, and she is ready to give Alithia a run for her money in terms of I'm more annoying and self-entitled than you.
Yeah, they're all a bunch of giggling imbeciles.
Basically, yeah. I mean, we're not supposed to like them; we are supposed to hate them, and I think in that regard, they serve the purpose well.
I think Alithia is doing a splendid job, if that's purpose. I mean,
There you are.
yeah.
Again, I don't think this is very kind of character focused. I wasn't able to pertain any nuggets of, is this a name from history? Obviously, the Gauls are mentioned, and as we know from the historical documents, Asterix the Gaul, they play an important part in the conflict with the Roman Empire. So the great Obelix, Getafix, and so on. So yeah, has anybody?
I'm not sure, but Sevovac sounds like a Gallic name.
Yeah, no, absolutely is. I don't think there's much to say about the history, but the story definitely raises some stakes in this episode, particularly where Alithia is concerned. She's kind of dethroned in this episode. Up to this point, she had a lot of power over the House of Batiatas, and then suddenly there are people that appear to have more money and influence than her turning up and kind of almost vying for the treats.
You mean Licinius?
Yeah.
Well, if Licinius is the cousin of Marcus Licinius Crassus, so he was widely known as the richest man in Rome.
Yeah, Licinia.
I'm not sure what that noise is.
Sorry.
Yeah, what is that noise?
No idea.
I think that's actually me. I was trying to make some quick screenshots, and my computer, for some reason, was going off. It said in my headphones to the computer. It's weird.
Sounds like you're like reloading a spear gun or something like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to, as you talk, I'm trying to just get some quick stills from the episode that IMDb doesn't have.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Just get maybe the characters. Get one of the two brothers would be good. You might want to add a blur to the horsecock shot.
I'm skipping that one.
So we have a scene where one of the really interesting scenes in the episode is where Alithia takes the knife and she kind of wants to put Spartacus down in front of the other women, and it's the first time Spartacus speaks out of turn to her. It's a pretty tense moment, and Alithia starts to lose her shit in front of the other women, and actually kind of I like this episode because she starts to unravel, and the other women sort of start looking down on her, and it's like she's kind of lost her grasp of her position, and the other three ladies are like, thanks for a most interesting evening and see you later.
And they act too modern, honestly.
I mean, they do. It is very almost Beverly Hills 90210 Roman Empire 630 XXX kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, it's just like a Valley Girls cross between the silly sisters in Pride and Prejudice, as I said. Oddly enough, I think the silly giggling sister in Pride and Prejudice, I think she's called Lydia, isn't she? So it's not far off of Alithia's name. But
they serve their function, I feel. Yeah, not your favorite moment. Okay.
No,
just maybe it could have been achieved with
better actors.
Yeah, and a more historical tone to their presence. I'm choosing my words carefully.
Yeah, I think Darth Plato's absolutely right, because I don't know whether it was written that way or directed that way. I mean, obviously, it's certainly acted that way. Give us something that's at least marginally, more dramatic rather than pantomime.
Yeah, well, as a result of that scene, after a slight on her husband's honor by Spartacus, Alithia basically gets the Gaul, the horsecock Gaul, Segovax, has a conversation with him one-to-one, and basically she implies that she will promise him his freedom in exchange for his help. And then Crixus, after working to regain Lucretia's sexual favor, fortunately interrupts Segovax's attempt to strangle Spartacus. So this is actually where I suppose it's an important plot point that Crixus actually saved Spartacus's life, and he's already done the same. Both are wounded in the fight, but it gives them a new sense of brotherhood with each other. And then there's a great ending to this episode, which I think is, if you don't like the character of Ilithia, it would have put a smile even on Inside Man's face. So on a return visit, she arrives in time to both witness her sponsor's slave's crucifixion and deny any knowledge of the reasons behind the attack, which of course she orchestrated. And not only do they crucifix the slave, but something on him is missing. So he's had a bit of a decapitation situation occur as well. So
let's just say dismemberment.
Dismemberment. It's a pretty it's a pretty gruesome scene. Even for
unpleasant.
Spartacus, very unpleasant. Not one for the kids.
There's nothing more gruesome than crucifixion, honestly.
No, indeed. We've kind of covered the. Does anyone want to say anything else about the story for this episode?
I liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it. I thought, again, we're really moving at a pace. I mean, things are starting to unravel. The various threads are all unraveling and starting to go in their proper directions now. So, so we know, we have those proper plot points now, and the proper story arcs for the different characters. My favorite episode to date.
Oh, episode 8, despite the gaggling girlies. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I really like this episode.
Yeah, I mean, again, everybody gets a bit of time. I suppose there's the one actor that probably doesn't get really anything here in this episode is Navarro, Jai Courtney. But there's a lot of there's more stuff with Navia and Crixus, which I really like. And the way that's all playing out is quite beautiful in a way. I like, because I like the fact that when he speaks to her, he kind of becomes really childlike.
Yeah.
And sort of, my words won't be enough, I fear, and all this sort of thing. But
it becomes a boy, doesn't he? He turns into a boy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just like Blue Collar Loser, when he finally gets that popcorn bucket that he wants at the cinema.
Awesome.
Yeah. So anyone else want to say anything else about the story before we move on? Episode 8.
I think the main thing for me, it's like I've always loved Crixus since episode 1, but boy, it's debatable whose episode it is, but Crixus, I think for me it's his episode, because the whole like him healing, him coming back, and also it's just like how they're gladiators, they're livestock, and like, well, you're not healed, you're kind of worthless, and now it's like freaking Badiatus wants to sell him, get rid of him.
Yeah,
damn.
Well, we can cover that on.
I swear to be burned, chained, beaten.
Actually, Navarro does get that one scene where he argues with Spartacus. That's quite an important, where they're talking about because he knows that he slept with that woman, which we saw earlier in the episode.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't got to sex and violence yet, but there's quite a bit of both in this episode, which we'll come to. Everyone gets to do their stuff. I agree. The tone of the acting with the sort of the upper class ladies feels a little bit out of step with the show. I don't mind it as much as Inside Man, as in I feel it serves the story fine, but they could almost be in a different show.
Yeah.
I agree that probably could have been done a little bit better.
It should have been done more subtly.
Yeah, it does feel like we're very much watching a play on stage at that point that's set in Rome rather than a TV show.
Yeah.
To some degree. I quite like the new Peacock in that group, though. I think the actress does quite a good job of sort of annoying Alithia and putting her down, and that it works quite well. Yeah, Manu Bennett definitely gets to show his range as an actor in this episode, in his scenes with Navia and his scenes with Lucretia, and he sort of becomes all sort of passionate with her and everything. It's like he decides to sort of kind of take her, basically, which is what she wants, because up until now he's sort of been a bit of a sexual cripple. So and she's kind of writhing with joy. Lucy Lawless having fun, and then you've got Navia watching, and it's quite distressing for her. It's the dynamics of that love triangle they work really well in the show, I think. So,
yeah, no, I'd agree. Yeah, I do like him as a character. His character is great. I think he actually has more going on than any of the other characters, including Spartacus.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's a lot of complexity to his character, and he really is pushed and pulled all over the place. I mean, he's obviously in love. It's not an unrequited love, but it's a love that can't be expressed. And he's also performing his duties with Lucretia. And again, he can't really express what his true feelings are. That he just doesn't want to do it. See his relationship with Spartacus, but also his his desire to become the champion of Capua again.
Yeah.
So he has got a lot going on.
Yeah, I would agree. I think probably of all the actors, he's probably got the most interesting role, especially now we've got a bit further in the story and he's not being played so one-dimensionally as just the tough guy.
Yeah.
He's got more going on under the skin and all of that. So good stuff. Does anyone want to mention any of the other actors or cast in this episode?
Should I mention Alithia again?
No.
Okay.
I mean, what do we think about the two brothers, and what do we think about the actor that plays Segovax?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I just like that. The whole episode for me was terrific. As I say, it was my favorite episode. I like the introduction of these characters. All three of them. Yeah,
it's a pretty cool moment where Crixus smashes Segovax's head on the side of the well, and I don't know if you noticed, but two of his teeth come flying out.
Yeah. Especially because when they're crucifying him too, you see his face. You can see him missing as he's going up on the cross there.
So we've got some visuals here now.
Made some quick ones. The hardest part was the crucifixion scene because he's naked the entire time. So I just got his when he first show his him screaming in pain because he's very blessed, we'll say.
And there's one of the brothers on the right. I wonder, so when they did that shot with him and he's naked, I wonder if that was Boogie Nights makeup effect, or whether it was, they just or whether they just auditioned a load of actors that came in and said, well, we need someone, it's actually in the script, we need someone with a extremely well endowed to play this role. And
I just like to think that it's just a prosthetic.
Are you feeling insecure inside, man? Is that
I am now.
I mean, it's I mean, also it's quite funny as well, because if you think you're prepared to go full frontal like that in a show like this,
Yeah.
And then let's say that this show premieres on Saturday, the 1st of December, and that guy's in a nightclub Saturday, the 20th of December.
Yeah.
And everyone recognizes him. You're going to have women coming up to him, probably wanting to like cop a feel.
Yeah, or following him into the toilets or something.
Yeah, probably a few men too, depending on what type of club, you know.
It was all CGI, I swear.
It's that's interesting.
Yeah, I did like how Spartacus was toying with Crixus because him being injured, but also it's kind of like the snake eating its tail because Crixus was first toying with Spartacus in the beginning of the season and kind of just slapping him around, embarrassing him. Now Crixus is embarrassing. I mean, Spartacus is embarrassing Crixus almost like it's a revenge, but also Crixus is not as 100. He's not 100% neither.
Yeah.
And their dialogue, he's like, yeah, of course you got the glory. You're the hero. And he says to him as he's healing up right there, that scene, he's like, you tend to forget that you didn't beat him by yourself. And actually I helped you.
Yeah.
And you act like, you took all the glory like it was a one-on-one fight. Like, no, if anything, remember Crixus blinding the guy with his helmet is kind of what saved the day. But he's like, you act like I didn't do anything, it was all you. That's why it's also why he's pissed off. Crixus is the one healing and being embarrassed while you're taking all the freaking glory.
Yeah.
I kind of sympathize with Crixus though, because that's just the way how fighting is. If you want to be the man, you have to. If you want to be the man, you have to beat the man. And Spartacus didn't beat Crixus.
No.
Yeah, when they hang him up on the wall, it took me a second to realize that something was missing because they've given him massive swinging knackers.
Yeah.
As presumably as part of the prosthetic, just to please Inside Man's sensibilities. And the episode ends with a line from Crixus, which is, "I'll regain my position, champion," and Spartacus says, "I welcome the attempt." So it's kind of, it ends with it's back on between these two. Crixus is healed. We've seen him reassert his masculinity.
Yeah, also right there, but he angry makes love, we'll say, and you see her in the background. She's like horrified, like how much she's, taking care of business with Lucretia. Because earlier in the episode, he's like saying, "I can't, I'm not fully healed. I can't perform." Now he's like overperforming.
Yeah.
So I think it's neat that you have the role reversal between Crixus and Spartacus. And in episode 2, Spartacus was the one that that Crixus kicks Spartacus' butt as a demonstration to everybody else, and now it's completely reversed.
And also Spartacus gets to say the sacred ground doctore line.
Yeah.
I love the way that whole scene repeats itself.
What's
except
beneath your
now
feet?
Spartacus is part of the gang,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how
It's like there's sand beneath your feet. Are all laughing at him.
Yeah, and when
and it's sorry, I was just going to say it's interesting you mentioning that because it makes you realize that they are part of a cycle.
Yeah,
there's a kind of a cyclical thing going on, so they're kind of in the in the meat grinder really, and it's a constant movement, a constant cycle of these people going into the meat grinder and coming out the other end. It's I really like that.
Keith E wanted to remind the audience Inside Man prosthetics are also available in the lobby.
Yeah, even like a small scene when they're all eating, he's like, Crixus, remember, he's like slapping the guys around, hitting their food, let them eat. He goes, "Well, who are you?" Spartacus like, "Well," he's like, I'm the leader. He's like, you would lead if you were fit to lead. But he's like, now they're gonna listen to me. And so he's just like, just in front of everybody, just rubbing in so much.
Yeah, that's a good. That also kind of shows that like Spartacus isn't going to torment people in the same way that Crixus and the other gladiators used to. The thing you said about the cycle Inside Man, what I was going to say is, what's really interesting when you see that scene repeated is the only 2 fighting gladiators, I'm not including Asher, that are left alive from when we saw everyone come and parade out before. I think at that point are Crixus and Spartacus.
Yeah.
Because the bald-headed guy was killed. Barker's been killed. The Germanic guy got thrown over the cliff. I think somebody else was killed in the arena. So there might be some extras, maybe. But your other key gladiator characters, apart from Asher and of course Doctore, are all dead.
Yeah.
And then of course Spartacus and Navarro, I think, are the only ones left alive from that particular batch that came in.
Yeah. Yeah.
There might be one bald guy, I think, maybe that survived with them. But yeah, so again, it's like the percentage of those that are still around a year later or however much time is supposed to have passed is kind of interesting. Well, there's not. I mean, there's a little bit of violence in this episode at the end, but there's certainly plenty of.
Others are said to be ravenous beasts. Make him do it again.
Yeah, this episode definitely made me miss certain people. So yeah, there's like gladiators all. Okay, so one of the scenes that felt a bit Hollywoodized was the scene where Asher is coming around with the whores, I suppose, or slave girls, and he's going to each gladiator's cell. Do you want coin or do you... The line is actually, do you want coin or cunt? Which is, excuse me for saying the C word. And
coin.
Yeah, and then he's got a great line, which is my favorite line from the episode, when Crixus comes out to his cell and he says, "You haven't been fighting, so you get neither coin nor cunt." But I don't know if you noticed, but the 3 slave girls that are traveling with him in that shot, they all look like supermodels, pretty much. They're all like stunningly gorgeous with perfect hair and all of this.
Yeah, that's not verisimilitude, no.
No, I just kind of thought, these are slave girls. They're not going to be top of the line.
Yeah. No, you can imagine them as, slightly sort of, recovering from the pox, a few teeth missing,
Yeah.
rough hands.
Yeah, I did think at least that they should have had slightly rough hair. They all look like they've just been oiled and bathed, and which, okay, if they're being presented before Batiatus for whatever.
This is a really low class establishment of Ludus. So you're going to get a low class, as Leroy would say, whores.
Yeah, definitely.
So but that aside, that's a bit of a gripe with this episode. But that aside, good. But there's a lot of sex in it. Pretty vital crucifixion and dismemberment at the end. Level of sex and violence in this episode: too much, appropriate, not enough. Darth,
for this show, it's perfectly appropriate.
Blue.
Beyond that, I couldn't say.
100% with Darth. It's any other show, it'd be over the top, but we're here. But like I also kept that screenshot because I felt it were as he's beating Crixus down, and just at the toy with him, he's putting a wooden sword, but still a wooden sword, right into still his fresh
his wound,
twisting it. I'm like,
you
feel it. Like
that was pretty. I mean, I quite like the fact that they've written Spartacus as an anti-hero, but he's not like always noble and shit, not like the Kirk Douglas Spartacus. He's very different from that. I like that.
Plus, we are seeing that like they are learning off each other, because Crixus, he has been just a one-note character, and now he's been humbled, and now he's like his whole life has been, his whole world's been turned upside down, and like, with him falling in love, now he's not top dog anymore. Now he's just like seeing how vulnerable he is. This guy was the best. Technically, he is better than Spartacus, but right now he's injured. So now just, man, it's like it's so hard. It's like any kind of athlete. Imagine being the top boxer in the world, and now like you get hurt, and it's like what is life like to now be second best?
Yeah.
So Inside Man, the sex and violence, too much, not enough, about right.
No, it's if I'm completely honest with you, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm getting bored of the sex in it, but I'm slightly, I'm almost kind of willing the scene to end so that I can get to, the plot and the
Yeah.
you know, the action and the violence. To be honest with you, I'm kind of over the sex scenes, if I'm honest with you.
Minimal thrusting for Inside Man from here on
Yeah,
out.
yeah. So that's when I go outside and put the kettle on for a nice cup of tea.
Oh.
Yeah. a
Can
nice
tell,
cu-
we're-
a nice
can
cup
tell
of
we're all
mint
getting on a
tea.
bit.
Yeah.
If
What,
we're-
now, what I actually do is I sit there, drinking my mint tea, and I open my Bible at my favorite verse, and because I'm not into all this kind of sex and violence, as you know. No, I mean, no. In all seriousness, it is kind of a little bit. I'm just willing it to end, and just wanting to get onto all the blood and gore and the actual plot. But it's okay. It's fine.
Well, yeah, very good. Let us move on.
I'll say one more thing about the comment when you were talking about Spartacus and how he's different now. He's more like an anti-hero. He's not exactly Kirk Douglas. Remember at the beginning of I think it was episode 7 where it's a flashback scene where he is with
where he's with Sarah.
Yeah, but that conversation is actually kind of the key to understanding this. That where she's a prophetess, and she's prophesizing his future. So when she dies, he is remembering that conversation. He is embracing that moment from years ago, and he's trying to actualize that now. And I think that's what he's doing.
Yeah, and when he dreams about her or hears her, she's reminding him that his path is instilled to a greater purpose, I suppose, is the easiest way to sum that up. 11 people watching. Thank you very much for tuning into this Spartacus retrospective review and breakdown of episodes 7 and 8. We are coming near the end. We're just near the end of episode 8. Let's do this.
They cheer for blood, and they shall have it.
Really spoiled for choice on this episode with the best lines of dialogue. Oh man, there's loads. But I mean, my favorite line of dialogue for this episode is probably, "I changed my mind. I'll put my bet on the one with the horse cock." That's probably my favorite. Favorite moment of this episode, the really testy dialogue between Batiatus and Lucretia is great. Where some of their scheming feels like it's unraveling a bit. Really nicely played by both the actors. But I think probably just like, if I go back to when I first watched the show and think about my first reactions, I mean, I won't use the word favorite, but I'll use the word memorable scene. It's got to be the ending, because that really kind of like, whoa, it was one of those where it's like, whoa. And it was like we were talking about that, me and my then partner, for quite some time afterwards. And it's just, you don't forget a crucifixion combined with a dismemberment is pretty strong stuff.
Look at who the hell knows why they did what they did. I mean, the Romans were very good at torturing people. They'd end it quickly, or they just prolonged it. If they prolonged it, they wouldn't break your lower legs. Sometimes they broke your legs so that you would suffocate faster. The cause of death for crucifixion was usually suffocation.
So Darth, as you've got the most accurate Roman haircut historically of all of us, you can go next. What's your favorite line, most memorable scene from this episode?
I think I don't have a favorite line per se, honestly, but the best scene I think is when Lithia Spartacus and Lithia just go nuts. It's a laugh out loud scene. I just couldn't stop laughing at that scene.
When he makes her angry.
When Spartacus realized who he was with.
Right.
And then And the reaction of them both was hilarious. And
yeah, hang on,
yeah.
whoa! You're not talking about the scene in the next episode where they have sex.
Yeah, I think I am remembering that scene.
Yeah,
I haven't seen this episode in 10
that's
years.
the episode after this, man.
Oh, sorry.
That's where that's when Lucretia deliberately tricks her, and she thinks she's actually having sex with Crixus.
Okay, that my bad. Yeah, I was thinking ahead.
I thought you meant the dialogue between them when they're facing off. When he's
Yes. So okay. Pulling back a little bit, the favorite scene in this episode is probably the conversation between the standoff between Spartacus and Crixus and the role reversal. That's because that's the best scene because of the role reversal.
Yeah, it is a good scene. It's a really good.
Yeah,
all the role reversal stuff in this. I mean, my other favorite line would probably be Spartacus saying "Sacred ground, Doctore," because I love the way that whole thing has come full circle, and it's him.
Yeah. By the way, I noticed on your caption that you misspelled Doctore.
Yeah, quite possibly did. Oh yeah, I did. Thank you.
My God.
Thank you for pointing that out. It was a test. I'm glad you spotted it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Blue, is that your favorite line up on screen?
Saved right here. So that's the line. It goes, "Champion of Capua." Look at that.
You do not take lead here.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's good.
A small thing.
Definitely good. Good stuff. Yeah, there's no A in Doctore. There you go, and that rhymes, so remember it. What about your favorite moment or scene? Same scene?
Yeah, well, the scene, the one after I said where he's toying with him, just because that he's just embarrassing in front of everybody, and like I said before, just he's doing to Crixus what Crixus did to him. So it's like, it's role reversal, but some kind of a little bit of revenge. But right there, it's like he didn't have to do that. He was enjoying like rubbing the salt in the wound. Well, yeah, just and later on it does pay off because, like you said, Crixus saves his life again, and he didn't have to.
Yeah. Inside Man, line and scene.
My favorite scene, and it really kind of stuck out for me, and that was when Batiatus was telling Lucretia that he was going to be selling Crixus, and it was her reaction. Her reaction really kind of punctuated the fact that she actually does love this guy.
Yeah,
she actually is in love with this guy. She can't, but that she finds his absence, that the possibility of his absence, of him never coming back.
Yeah,
quite quite a tug in her heart. But that really sort of establishes that relationship that she feels that she has with him, not necessarily what he has with her, but what she has with him. I really like that scene. I thought she played that really well.
Yeah, it's good.
Although I do wish that John Hannah would stop saying Jupiter's cock and, they can suck my cock and cock this and cock that. He's always talking about Jupiter's
I love all
cock.
of that. I think all of that's great.
Always on about Jupiter's cock.
But Jupiter's cock is the biggest, so that's well.
But that adds to the absurdity that he wants to go to higher office.
He's not going to say Mercury's cock, is he? Because that's a small planet. So you know what I mean.
I just wanted to compliment what Blue said about the scene where Crixus comes to the aid of Spartacus. So the entire episode you see Spartacus rubbing it in and practically beat his ass right there in the open. And what does Crixus do? He shows that he has a sense of honor by coming to Spartacus' aid. So he's showing that he has honor.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, there definitely is the sense of brotherhood is kind of re-established with them, along with the sense of rivalry. Okay. Marks out of 10 for this episode. Anyone watching, you're welcome to put a mark in the chat. Probably give it an 8, I think, for me.
Yeah, I'd give this a clear 8, possibly even I'd even go as far as to say a 9. It really is my favorite episode to date. I really enjoyed this one a lot.
It's amazing what that extra inch will do for you, Inside Man, on the ratings.
That's right. Or those extra inches that have been lobbed off.
Severed.
Yeah.
Gratuitous, says
Yeah.
Steve. Blue, what's your rating out of 10?
I mean, based off that one scene, it would be a 10, but
yeah.
Touche, sir. Well thrown out of left field. I
was very careful not to take a picture of that because my God. Anyway, no, it's you guys say it's a solid 8, and yes, Crixus and Spartacus, this is their episode because some episodes belong to Lucretia and Batiatus, but no, these guys they both earned it, and that's all I can say about it. Just, I love their both characters are evolving but different ways, and they're learning from each other. It's amazing the whole they're actually more alike than they first understood in the first 5 episodes, and now we're starting to see this building up of brotherhood that hasn't been earned. But like Inside Man said last episode, that now we're past the halfway mark, so it's almost like now he is Spartacus. We're seeing a whole different character development for both of these guys in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I think actually that couldn't have come too soon because it gives Andy Whitfield a chance to show more of his range as an actor, and also he kind of really feels like he knows where he is with the character now that he's reached, because he reaches quite a few milestones in these 2 episodes. He becomes Spartacus. We see the spiritual influence of his wife kind of implied from the afterlife. Some of it, of course, is reflective memory, but there's a bit of both going on there. His loyalty to Batiatus is increasing as well, for the most part, very much down to Batiatus's trickery. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I got the scene for Inside Man when he talks about selling Crixus, the look in her face.
Yes, I give it a
yeah.
Well, I was going to say I'd give it an 8.5, but since I don't believe in fractions, I'll give it a 9.
Okay.
There you go. So it's
wish only to discover his current value.
Like you said, look at his face. Look at his face.
You would sell Crixus?
Yeah.
Really
I like the look from Asher as well. Like he knows. He's like a sponge. He's always absorbing information that might be useful later. That was nicely played.
I would explore all avenues.
Nick Tarabay, the great actor.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see this.
He's the best antagonist of the whole series, even though he's not the main antagonist.
He is. He's really good. Hey, that's why he's got his own show. So, and I might actually.
He's much better than that Glaber guy. That Glaber, I didn't like that guy at all.
No, I didn't like him either.
I'm gonna just look to see if there's any more information.
Yeah, because Lance, are they bringing that actor back? Because I mean, obviously, it's been a good decade. I mean, he would have. I mean, if it's going to be, is it a prequel or a sequel? That's what I was lost on.
Prequel, I believe. I think
I'm not sure about that. I can show you a whole load of it's Nick Tarabay reprising the role of Asher.
Wow.
It wouldn't have worked without him. It wouldn't have worked.
I'm just curious because I mean, people do age. I mean, it was Better Call Saul was different because only a couple of years passed by, but you can see Mike was definitely older in Better Call Saul, and so
there's a lot you can do with post production these days to make people look younger. So I wouldn't worry about that. So we've got Graham McTavish in their cast. He's a really good.
That dude is everywhere. Oh my God,
great character actor. I've seen him in loads of things. I'm not familiar with the rest of the cast. Tanika Davis, Jamaica Vaughan, Ivana Baquero, Geordie Webber, Claudia Black, India Shaw Smith, Lee Gill, and Nick Tarabay. And who will fight for Asher? Choose carefully, for I long for blood. So described by the network as a historic, bending, erotic, thrilling roller coaster experience that builds on everything that made the original series a colossal hit. The series poses the question, what if Asher hadn't died on Mount Vesuvius at the end of Spartacus' Vengeance?
Right.
What if he'd been gifted the gladiator school once owned by Batiatus, in return for aiding the Romans in killing Spartacus and putting an end to the slave rebellion. That's kind of cool, actually, because the way you could interpret it, changing the ending to suit that narrative, if they're clever, is you could replay the scene where you set up a scene where you've got a load of soldiers talking, let's say Roman soldiers, and they're talking about the battle, and one of them says, "Oh, did you hear about what happened to that guy Asher, who gave us the information? Yeah, I heard he was put to the sword along with the rest of them." Cut to the original scene with him getting killed. Then another one in that conversation comes back and goes, "No, I heard it was different." And like that soldiers gossip talking, and that's basically that's how Chinese whispers. That's how the narrative could easily change back then, because you could argue that the show showed you a perspective that people thought was true, but this is what actually happened. That's the way to do it. If they do it like that,
considering how little we know about what did really happen, that does kind of seem to make sense. But I can't help but shake the feeling that this feels like a mirror episode, like from TOS.
Yeah.
Well, I always enjoyed those episodes, so that's fine with me. I'm sure that Jill from the awesome Star Trek channel will be up for it. So it should be interesting.
Because technically, I mean, it's a prequel, but then not the prequel in a sense, because it's the whole what if, like what if things were different. So it's almost like a spinoff then.
It's got Inside Man. They got 50mm on there. That, I mean, presumably that's a reference to the lenses, or they're not shooting on 50mm film, are they?
No. God, I mean, if they are,
I've never seen that on a board.
No.
I've never seen that on a board before.
No.
No.
I would assume that it would be lenses, but then it's a format, isn't it? So it must be shot on a 50mm digital format.
Could be, or it could be. Yeah. Maybe that's just a reference to the lens used for that particular shot, perhaps. So Spartacus creator, writer, executive producer returns to franchise. Okay, so he's obviously involved, which is good. Oh my God! Then they actually list all the agents that represent these people, which is interesting. Yeah. So I don't know when it's out. I don't know when it's coming out. But that's July 11th. So I mean, it must be shooting right now, I would have assumed. I think it's due to drop before the end of the year. Seeking God's Will says, and welcome to the channel. I can't remember if you've been in our chat before. Sequel assuming he didn't die to Crixus' wife on that hill. Indeed. So it's an alternative fictional historical reality. Does that make sense? I think it does. Okay. So I would explore all avenues of reason. I would explore all avenues of Asher's narrative. So we're going to wrap things up there, but I've got a couple of announcements. So recently I did an interview for a change. I did an industry interview on another guy's channel, which is called Beyond Real Talk. He's also a guy who interviews people in the industry. This is the link for the interview in case anyone wants to watch it. If like listening to me drone on my own channel isn't enough for you, if you're a real glutton for punishment, you can listen to more of me droning on this interview. I don't know how long it is. It's nearly 2 hours, man. So if you need to sleep, you're suffering from insomnia, put this on in the background. It will do one of two things. It'll either knock you out immediately or give you nightmares. It's your choice. But it's quite a balls to the wall interview. I talked at extreme length about various things to do with the industry, my experiences in the industry, how I approach writing scripts and so forth. And then also we talked about some things like we talked about the kiss in House of the Dragon. We got onto some really random topics, and I was talking about how I felt that was a mistake and that clearly that wasn't in the script.
So seriously, is that the most talked about scene of the whole second season? That's people keep bringing that up.
Well, I no, because what happened was he in the conversation, and bear in mind this interview will be heavily edited down. He said to me, "Can you give an example of where people have meddled with a script and it's come out and the results have been bad?" And I said, "Yeah, actually, I can think of one right now from House of Dragons season 2. That's how that came up." So I thought using a recent example would be a good thing. Anyway, it's on there. You can check it out. I do talk about quite a bit, including you guys on that interview.
Hey, Lance, I just want to mention really quick before I forget that it's Denari. When you mentioned earlier, you said Denari. It's you say it's spelled with a double I. You pronounce both I's as it's short and long.
So it's Denari.
Denari.
So say it again.
Denari.
That's how you say it, Denari.
Yeah, because you're saying the I twice. The second one is long.
Right.
You see, in Latin, the I can be a consonant or a vowel. And when it's a consonant, it's a short I sound. When it's a vowel, it's a long E sound, and that we would hear in English. And they did the same thing in the Rome series, except they used the English long I sound.
Fair enough. Other things of note. So I am going to also do my best to try and get Craig Walsh Wrightson to come on the show for an interview. In case you don't know who that is the actor who played Salonius. So I do have a means of contacting him. I'm going to reach out to him, and I'm hoping that he will agree to come on the channel, which would be great. So probably do that separate from one of these streams, but certainly somebody from the Spartacus stream will be joining me to co-host that with me, so we can grill him for Spartacus related topic questions if he agrees to come on. On Friday, I have Roy Wagner coming on, director of photography. You can look at some of his credits here. He's been a cinematographer / DOP on no less than 95 productions, including various shorts and feature films, as well as TV shows. There's a big list here. In particular, I'm less interested in talking to him about Bachelor Party 2, The Last Temptation, which, I mean, if it doesn't star Tom Hanks, it's no good. But I do want to speak to him about Drop Zone, Nick of Time. Nick of Time in particular is one of my favorite films. So, you know, and Inside Man's asked me if I can ask him a couple of questions about Nasty Boys Part 2, Lone Justice. So I'll get right on that. Quantum Leap, he also worked on Beauty and the Beast. These were big shows back in the day. One of his first big DOP jobs, not his first, but one of his sort of big ones was Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which is looked back quite fondly as one of the better Elm Street films. In fact, after the first one, the third one was always my favorite. I didn't care for any of the others. But yeah, so Roy Wagner coming in on Friday. So that'll be in 4 days' time. So looking forward to talking to him. And then, of course, tomorrow night, we have the Nielsen ratings. We're going to be talking about Alien Romulus. I also saw Mad Max Furiosa finally, so I'm going to give my opinion on that. Very late to the party on that, I know. I also have seen Wolverine versus Donut Deadpool guy. So I'll give you my thoughts on that as well. So I've caught up on a couple of things.
It's kind of popular right now.
I've also seen about 4 films that I didn't get past the first 15 minutes of. So tomorrow night on the Nielsen ratings, we'll probably get into some of those. I'm assuming, Inside Man, you're going to have some fun movies for us to talk about tomorrow.
Yeah, I got some, a bit of a crazy salad, as they say.
Indeed. I wouldn't expect anything less than the most crazy salad crawling with creatures from you. So fab. Blue, you got anything you want to plug, buddy, before we
I know you guys are the biggest gamers, but tonight 6 p.m. at 4 hours, this game comes out, which I'm going to stream, called Black Myth Wukong. And I'm very excited for this game, Lance, because they were taking off point screen wrap because the game lacks diversity. and that made me just want to buy it that much more. It's based on like the folklore of the Monkey King, and they're pissed off that a game in 1200 Japan based on mythical Chinese monkey god lacks diversity.
You gotta be kidding me!
Come on,
I'm not joking. So so tonight, but graphically, it looks like an amazing game, and everybody we know from Vex to Leon to Enzo, all these guys, it's a big thing right now for the gaming community. Like the game that everyone's talking about, made in Japan, that only has Japanese people. Like,
I mean, I had a personal thing happen to me this week, which I'm not going to discuss because it's personal, but involving one of my friends. And one of the things that really made me think about what's happening in the world, shall we say, as a result of this particular event in my life, is how divided we're all becoming, and how insular we're all becoming, and how people are retreating into their forts, and no one wants to discuss anything. And one of the most uplifting things I saw on the news this week, which was on Sky News, and you don't normally go, well done, Sky News, that was a good job, was that they got the guy who initially organised the Southport protest, the initial protest before it was kind of hijacked.
Yeah.
They got that guy, and they got a Romanian immigrant who'd been in this country for 21 years, and they put them together and sat them down and got them to have a very human conversation, and it was extremely moving, and they hugged each other at the end, and I thought, this is fucking brilliant. Why aren't more channels doing this? You know, it's a small step and all that, but and that guy has been working in this country for 21 years, been here a long time, has a good job and all the rest of it, but got pulled out of a car as part of that protest because they were trying to flee the area, and it's just it was really heartwarming to see, and I just see all this division, friends of mine not talking because of differing views on certain topics and politics and all of that, and I'm
we're looking for balkanization.
Well, I just think as friends, we should be able to have civilized discussions about topics we don't necessarily agree on, without labeling one or the other of us by saying, I've got better values than you, or your values are better than mine, or whatever. And
just deliberate.
I'm skirting around an issue here that I don't want to get into, but that's how I got to be made to feel this week. And on a more positive note, and changing the topic completely, I want to give a shout out to somebody. But sorry, Blue, you were just. I'm sorry, I went down a total rabbit hole.
No,
mate.
that's it.
Plugging stuff.
No, I was mistaken when I said Japan's actually China, but yeah, the legend of the Monkey King, and he's going to protect a monk going to India to bring back Buddhist holy books to China. So it takes place in like 1200, 1300 China, and that's one of the biggest criticisms is that Sweet Baby Inc. and all these DEI, like, where's the diverse cast? I'm like, you're playing a ancient Chinese monkey.
Yeah.
in ancient China. Oh my God, I'm sorry if it's not a diverse population back then.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what made me bring up the point. I apologize.
But Inside Man, you guys said this. Well, actually, all you. How many times we watch different mythology, and like if settings are taking place 500, 1,000, 2,000 years ago in certain aspects of the world wasn't overly populated with diversity 1,000 years ago. It's how it was.
Although the Roman Empire was pretty diverse.
Yeah.
That's not the same kind of thing that we're seeing now.
No, not the same kind of diversity that we're talking about. But in terms of ethnicity, who was it that was it? It wasn't Aurelius, was it? Who granted everybody within the empire Roman citizenship? But you had people from North Africa, and you had
granted everybody what?
Roman citizenship.
Right, that was Caracalla.
It's Caracalla, right?
Very good.
It's Caracalla.
So before we go, having gone down various rabbit holes in the last 5 minutes, I wanted to give a shout out to a good friend of mine and his son. So as you know, I'm a bit of a board gamer because I've got lots of board games behind me. And funny enough, this friend of mine, Richard Oakes, who's an incredibly talented director of photography and a director in his own right. In fact, I think when he directs his next film, he would have directed one more film than I have. So he directed Feed Me, the horror film, and a couple of other things. Sorry, Richard, the titles have gone right out of my head now. But anyway, extremely gifted man. And as you know, one of the things I like to do is I like to dabble a bit with board games design. And I saw on Richard's timeline today, and I hope you'll forgive me for sharing this, that his son has just designed a board game. I don't know if they're sort of in the process of playtesting it or it's about to come out. I'll get more details, and when we can, we'll plug it on the channel. But this is like some of the artwork and the setup that they've designed for it, 250 game cards and so on. So his son has sat down and designed this. So just to let you know that Uncle Lance is extremely proud of you, and I can't wait to come and play this game. And it looks great, you know. And this is the sort of thing that I would do as a kid, is I would design games and we'd make our own cards, but you do it all with like felt tip pens and stuff, and it would, you know, it would look like kids had got together and made a game. This looks like a game that I would buy in a game store already. So I'm extremely impressed. And yeah, I just, like I say, I just can't wait to give it a crack. And presumably, if this goes further, I've been talking about getting board games designers on the channel before. In fact, I've had two board games designers on the channel. So Richard and your son, you'll both be welcome to come on. Please do. And Catham, a fantasy role-playing game, I will gladly give it a big plug for you. Very proud of you. Well done. It looks fantastic. So great artwork as well. I'm sure your dad probably helped out a little bit, but that's what dads are for, isn't it? So yeah, great. Fantastic. So just wanted to do that. So I think that's everything. Don't forget, we're back with Director of Photography Roy Wagner on Friday. I've got a few more interviews lined up, just trying to lock the dates. We've got Gail Ann Hurd, producer of Terminator 2 Aliens, coming in on the 25th of September. And working on a few other guests as well for next month. Tom Gichilo might be coming back on again for a part 2 as well. Yeah, really looking forward to all the content that we're going to be getting on the channel, and of course doing more streams with you guys, which is always fun. And actually, I have been badgering Richard, the man I just spoke about, to come on to the channel and talk about his filmmaking efforts as well. So hopefully we can get him on to do that too. That's it from us. Thanks very much for tuning in. Spartacus episodes 9 and 10 probably will be on Sunday. Myself and the Inside Man are going to be doing a special on Mad Max rip-off films from the 1980s up to the mid-1990s. We're going to be talking about every single one that we can think of and find. And I think we might be doing that next Monday potentially, but we'll
right.
let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the next one. We just did an impromptu one on Cold War movies, and we're going to do post-apocalyptic stuff next. So lots of stuff on the New Barbarians, Bronx Warriors 2, 2019, The Fall of New York, all of those, Battle Truck, all those great straight to videos that you may or may not have seen, Metal Storm, Destruction of Jared Sin. Yeah, so on that note, it's good night from my amazing panel. Thanks for everyone for taking part. And yeah, if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say post-apocalyptic Warriors of the Wasteland films, I'm talking about this kind of stuff. See you next time.
In a future that grows ever closer, the fate of our Earth will lie in the hands of one man, a solitary warrior of great courage. His name is Dojin, and he is called the Finder. His enemies will emerge from the underworld to test his strength. Urok, the Cyclopean warlord of the One Eyes. The assassin Baal. Half man, half machine. And Jared Sin, leader and mastermind of the sinister renegades. They will utilize their cruelest weapons. They will exploit their most mysterious powers.